Yo, what's poppin', everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Key to the Streets, going over this real estate game. Today, we're going to go over how I coach my sales team. Now, this took me a little bit to figure out, and it might be, you might not be in this step yet as far as like how I coach my sales team, but you can utilize it if maybe you only have one VA, or maybe you can even utilize it if you're just doing your own calls. This is how you essentially figure out, it's how you pull back the curtains on what's going on with a particular lead. And that's how you coach, right? So for me, at the moment, I am the sales manager in our business, which means I'm the guy that the sales team brings the leads to and says, hey, we have this lead. They want this amount. Can we do this deal at $200,000, right? So I'm kind of like the underwriter who figures that stuff out. But before they bring me an opportunity, they have to fill up buckets. Okay. So what I do, right, is I have this 8-step sales process that essentially every single step is a bucket. And when they bring me a lead, I don't confirm like, hey, yeah, let's lock it up at this number. Let's do that, this, that, and the other. I ask them about the buckets. Hey, what happened in the rapport bucket? What happened in the budget bucket? What happened in the pain bucket? What happened in all these buckets, right? Because that is going to tell you what is really going on with the lead. And that's going to tell you how your sales team is converting. Now, you might be like, Mike, I don't have a bunch of acquisition managers or anything like that. Maybe I'm cold calling myself, or I just have one VA and I'm doing the lead management, I'm doing the follow-up and stuff like that. If that's the case, there's no worries. Do the same thing. Let's just say you are the person doing all the cold calling and texting, right? What do you have to do? You have to generate a lead before you start the conversion process. So you have to fill up buckets. When you generate a lead, what are the buckets? The buckets in that case are the 4 pillars. So the 4 pillars being timeline, motivation, price, condition. And when you pull back the curtains to see, hey, why am I not converting these prospects into leads? You pull back the curtains and you say, okay, what buckets were not filled up? Motivation, timeline, price, condition. And that's how you move forward with it. So you can do this at any point in the business. I'm going to go over it from a standpoint of my sales team, like coaching acquisition managers, but you can utilize this if you're coaching a VA or you are coaching yourself on lead generation, whatever the case is. All you have to do is you have to abide by a process, whether you're in the cold call stage and you're just generating leads, right? You have to abide by a process. What's the process? The process is a script to get the 4 pillars, right? Or maybe you're in the stage where you have a bunch of leads in the pipeline and you need help figuring out what your process is for sales and converting. That's a whole different process than lead generation. They're way 2 different things. It's essentially like marketing and sales. So right now we're going to go over how I coach my team on the 8-step sales process when they bring a lead to me, right? But like I said, you can use it for either, the acquisitions team, or you can use it if you're just doing calls and you're doing lead generation yourself, or you can do it for a VA cold calling and texting, and you can underwrite and essentially figure out what's going on with those leads. But let me share my screen really quick. All right. So I'm going to call all these steps buckets, right? So this is what happens. Whenever one of my sales guys comes to me with an opportunity being a lead that he is trying to convert into a contract, right? Whenever somebody says, hey, Mike, I have this opportunity, I don't know what to do with it, or I'm trying to approve this sort of number, here's what we do. We have these 8 steps, and I went over the 8-step sales process on another video. If you go back to my YouTube channel, maybe like a month or so ago, I did the 8-step sales process, but I'm just going to quickly go over it again. So 1, this is intro and bonding. 2 is rapport. 3 is pain. 4 is budget. 5 is decision. 6 is fulfillment. There are 2 more steps, but just for the sake of Coaching, I really only coach these 6 when I'm talking about filling up buckets, when they bring me an opportunity to figure out if it's an opportunity or not. So, for perfect example, the reason why I'm going over it today is because me and my sales team just had a really good call going over 2 different leads. And Karen on my team brings over an opportunity. And she's like, "Hey, Mike, I'm trying to figure out what's going on with this lead. Like, is this a good deal for us? What's going on with it?" I'm like, "Okay, let's step back a little bit before we figure out if it's a good deal or not. Tell me about it." I didn't really go over this with her. That's fairly simple. My sales team has that down pat. Like, we have a really good intro. Both of them, they are fluid with their intro. They bond with the seller. They act like a human being. They do all those things, right? Rapport, in our case, is not talking about cats and dogs or anything like that. It's figuring out the situation. So I asked Karen, I'm like, "Tell me about the lead. Tell me about the situation. What is their situation?" She starts telling me, this lady's going through a divorce, this, that, and the other. And she tells me the whole situation about the lead. I'm like, "Okay, great. Good job. You filled up the report bucket." Okay. Now pain. What did you get the seller to feel their pain? Because in step 3, we're essentially making them feel their pain. And where a man convinced against his will is of the same opinion still, essentially. So what we do is we get them to tell us their pain. So we say something along the lines of like, "Dang, so you have a divorce going on and all this stuff. I mean, what happens if your husband doesn't get on the same page as you? Like, what are you going to do?" And she comes up with it herself. She's like, "I don't know. I'm kind of screwed. Like, there's no way I can not let this go through." Right now, she's sitting there, feeling her pain. So she did a good job of this. She filled the pain up. Now I'm going to skip over budget for a second, and I'm going to go over decision. How is the seller justifying making a decision? If you could wave a magic wand, what are the problems that are solved? Those types of questions. She did that. She figured all that stuff out. So boom, decision was filled up. And I'm like, "Okay, great." So then you went in for fulfillment. She's like, "Yeah." And she agreed to it. So the way we do fulfillment is we essentially take their decision. Whatever they said is going to justify them making a decision. In this case, it was, "Hey, I need $250,000 net in my pocket to move on, to go buy my condo. And I need, 60 days to move my stuff out. And I need my husband to get on the same page," and da, 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 da. So fulfillment, what does that look like? Fulfillment is like, "Hey, what if somebody came in and got you your $250,000 in the next 60 days, and you don't really have to pay any commissions for realtors, and you didn't have to do this, that, and the other, and we got your husband on the same page, and we essentially solve your problem, right? What would be the next steps?" And they say, "You know what? Send over the contract. Let's go." Boom. She did that. Fulfillment. Now we're not going to get into the rest of the conversation, but we found out we had a hole missing. She tried figuring out, "Hey, is this a deal or not?" And I'm like, "Hey, what does the seller need?" She's like, "Well, the seller said she wants 520. I'm like, "Okay, great. For what?" Because remember, what's the budget step? The budget step is what price, but why? Okay. So she wants 520. That's what she said. We didn't get the why for that 520, but Karen did a good job of figuring out what she needed net in her pocket and why she needed that. She said 250 to go move on to another property. Now there was one more thing that she was missing with the 520 though, and that's the why. Why did she need 520? The question that I told her to ask was, how much is left on the mortgage? Because since she owes 200, since she wants $250,000 net in her pocket, we got to figure out exactly what is owed on the property. Because what if it's only $100,000? That means our offer can be at 350 and her problem solved. So we got to figure out why she wants 520. Is it because of that mortgage? So there's a little bit more digging to figure out to fill up the budget bucket. So that's what I told her. That's what we have to go figure out. We have to go fill this bucket back up. So now that you have a system in place and you have these buckets to fill up, when somebody brings you an opportunity, you can ask questions on, give me the answer to 1 through 6. How are all these buckets filled up? And if they're not filled up, how can we go back and fill them back up? That way we can create an opportunity for us to submit an offer. Essentially, we're not submitting offers. We're just, I'm not going to go down that road. We'll do that on another video, but we're getting them to this step in order to close them. That's what we're doing. Step number 6. I hope this brought y'all some value. You can do this. I don't want to overwhelm you guys with all the stuff when it comes to the sales team and everything. You might be like, Mike, I don't have a freaking sales team. I don't have acquisition managers. I only have me calling. I only have one virtual assistant generating leads or something like that. That's cool. But if you have that, right, come up with a process. And I wish I did this much earlier. Come up with a process. That way, when you pull back the curtains, and let's just say you hop off on the phone with a seller, right? You should be able to have one. Let's just say you're generating leads. Let's just say that's your job. Your job is to generate leads. You're cold calling and texting every single day. You should have the 4 pillars. That's all you need to do to qualify a lead as a lead. You need the 4 pillars: motivation, timeline, price, condition, right? Put those up right next to your wall. And after you get off the phone with somebody and you didn't convert them as a lead, you're not putting this lead in the CRM, look up and see, hey, what buckets did I not fill? I didn't fill the motivation bucket. What questions can I ask in order to fill that bucket? So you can do this you can coach yourself doing this. It's not just like coaching a team or whatever. You just need a process, and you need steps in that process, and you need to treat those steps like they're buckets. And once you get off the phone with somebody, or once your sales team gets off the phone with somebody, or once your VA gets off the phone with somebody, figure out why we weren't able to fill up those buckets, aka the steps, aka bring them through the whole entire process. Let's go. Hope this brought y'all some value. If it did, please like the video, subscribe to the channel. I appreciate y'all. I'll see y'all tomorrow. Peace.